Welcome everybody, my name is Krush AK and this is the Market Meditations podcast. We chat with fascinating people from around the world to extract mindsets, routines, stories and habits to help you build richer lives. Meditators, today we have on the podcast Joel Birch. He's the CEO of Stacked and genuinely one of the hardest working people I have ever met. He worked out so hard that he gave himself a stroke. That's the sort of person we're dealing with here, so come listen to him. He's a smooth talker, he shares so much wisdom, and he's incredibly successful in the crypto space. Meditators, welcome to another episode of the Market Meditations podcast. Today I have with me Birch. Now, Birch is really awesome. I've been following him recently, looking into what he's doing, and he's a hustler. He's building in the crypto space, and he's come with an incredible background behind him, like definitely the best we've seen on the show so far. Birch, can you describe what we've got in the image right now?
Wow, that is a hell of an intro. Thank you, my friend. What we've got in the background here?
Yeah.
What we got going
behind
back here?
I'm seeing Pokemon cards. I'm seeing a dollar lit on fire. I've seen a stacked pillow.
Yeah, we got it all going on. So, no, I mean, it's pretty simple. So, we have a modest startup here that we'll get into discussing, obviously. But my office is here at the Chicago Board of Trade in Chicago. And when we started putting this small space together, there's about 5 of us that work out of our central location. And I have a team of about 20 now that is largely decentralized. So for those of us here, listen, I'm going to put in 70, 80-hour weeks as an entrepreneur trying to, get to the next level. So you got to be somewhere that you're comfortable. So we took a quarter of the office and we just made a little like living room space out of it so we could get some N64 in when we need a break or throw some darts, and ultimately just try to have a vibe here. If we're spending 8 to 12 hours a day, in this fairly small space with 4 or 5 dudes, we just like to try to have a little vibe that just kind of makes it less stuffy, less corporate, if you will. So we're here at the HQ. We're here at the main office for Stacked right now.
Well, it's awesome. The playing cards, collectibles I'm seeing behind you, are those Pokemon card investments? Because we've been seeing a lot of those in the Twitter space right now.
Yeah, we got a number of them. Listen, I'm a '90s kid, right? So I'm right there with a lot of people in our generation right now with the nostalgia that is Pokemon. So yeah, I got about 10 Charizards back here. He was always my favorite. I wouldn't say as an investment per se, because as I've explained to my fiance, that money is long gone and probably not coming back. For me, it's just a bout of nostalgia and saying, you know what, I want more of those. I think they're pretty cool. And listen, man, I mean, I got 20-year-old cars that are in mint condition. I just like looking at them. I think it's pretty sweet. So more of a collection. Definitely think that we're probably near the top of short-term price on most of the, I would say, average Pokemon collectibles. Now, listen, a first edition Gem Mint, Beckett's Charizard's going to be valuable indefinitely. There's so few of them, but the run-of-the-mill cards out there, I mean, right now we're at a price spike. I wouldn't call it an investment.
It definitely does feel and seem that way, but it's always dangerous trying to at least short the top. So it's a fun ride to be on if you got in early.
You got any Pokemon?
Me, no, although Nikos did offer me a while ago to buy a whole bunch, and I slept on that. I totally slept on that. Could have made a good amount of money or just had some fun with it for sure.
Yeah.
Are you into a lot of collectibles, just as a sentimental thing, a hobby, a fun way to spend money? What do these mean to you? The Pokemon cards, the cars?
Yeah, I would definitely say not anything traditional, just stuff that I like. So like I'm a diehard Green Bay Packer fan, to a point of obsession or being potentially unhealthy. As a result, I have a massive memorabilia collection, most of which in storage because I don't have the space right now within my small Chicago apartment. Yeah. So hopefully,
for our non-American audience, who are the Green Bay Packers?
Oh yeah, I mean it's just the greatest sports franchise in modern history. They're an American football team, and they're quite good. They've been quite good for most of my life, and I grew up in Wisconsin, so that's where the Green Bay is, up in Wisconsin. So yeah, I mean I have a huge like Packer collection. I like Pokemon. I have my original Pokemon collection. I've added to it. So for stuff that I like, I like little diagram cars, little model cars. So I have a small collection of like model cars. I build stupid stuff like that. But I wouldn't say I'm like a collector. I don't have like a bunch of Rolexes or anything.
Yeah, so it seems like it's nothing to do with the money, just that stuff you like, so you go for it.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not in tune enough physical. Like I could see myself buying art one day and trying to convince myself it's worth buying because it could be worth more money in the future. But as when I look at it as a collector, I don't want to sell it. That's why I bought it. That's why it's in my collection. It's because I want it. So I don't look at it as a money making opportunity.
Then let's talk about actual investments and a perfect transition into Stacked. Tell me a bit about Stacked, man.
Yeah, thanks. Stacked is really just designed to be the easiest way for a typical crypto investor to manage their crypto portfolio and be more profitable, right? So ultimately, the question, how to buy crypto, is one that's been answered successfully now by a number of institutions, startups, et cetera. I feel like there's still too many people trying to answer the question. Like, let's make it easy to access crypto. Let's be honest, crypto's pretty easy to access. I don't know about you, but I bought my first Bitcoin at 230 something dollars in 2015, and it was using Coinbase. Like, it wasn't hard to do. I didn't need to like download a wallet or anything. So it's been quite accessible for a while. What's been less accessible is the right information to help people invest more profitably long term. So you have a lot of traders in this space. You have a lot of people trying to beat the markets. That's cool for the 5 to 10% of people who are going to have any level of success doing that. But for everyone else, I wanted to build a product that really just uses a unique modern UI to allow people to quickly move in and out of different exposures manually, but also automate by tapping their portfolio and basically tying it into an automated strategy, whether it be a hedge fund like basket of cryptos or a quant firm's trading bot. And so that's what we've done. We've just built an automation platform that's just really easy to use.
So specifically, what does the platform do? Can you buy through it? Does it help you just view your portfolio? Help you? I know it allows tools like rebalancing, recurring buys. I'm not sure about the recurring buys. So is it an all-in-one platform that does all of these things, or does it have a particular focus?
Yeah, the focus is on the strategy piece. So we're not an exchange, right? It's completely non-custodial. You hold your crypto where you want to hold your crypto. For most of our clients, that's Binance. For a lot of other clients, it's FTX or Bybit, right? So when you use Stacked, you're just connecting Stacked to your crypto exchange. The problem is crypto exchanges are pretty hard to navigate. I mean, I know a lot of people who own crypto who couldn't tell you what a market order is or define the difference between a trailing stop loss, and a traditional stop loss. Navigating order books to try to buy and sell crypto is a complete nightmare for most people. So when you use Stacked, we've just slapped a modern UI on it. So you connect your Binance account, but now we show you your portfolio in a beautiful pie chart and allow you just to move different sliders around to adjust the allocation you have to different assets. You can instantly move in and out of Tether at a weighted, across your portfolio. But I think the real meat and potatoes is, again, it's our marketplace. So we have a two-sided marketplace where you, the investor with a Binance account or an FTX account, can connect to a strategy that was designed by a hedge fund or a trader or a Twitter influencer or whatever. And you can follow an automated investment strategy designed by somebody else without ever losing custody of your crypto, right? You keep your crypto on your exchange. The trades are automatically made for you based on whatever strategy you're following. And we just make it super easy for you to stay on top of your crypto investments. What we're trying to build towards in the future is just being fully democratized wealth management, right? Being very much like an automated wealth manager for crypto.
Yeah, sort of. I'm getting Vanguard vibes from it for sure. It sounds awesome. Now, one thing which immediately pops in my head is I love it. I love a tool that's going to be able to manage this sort of thing for me, automatically rebalancing my portfolio. That's very attractive to me because I don't like to have to manually do that or create a custom bot. Now, the only thing I'm hesitant about is, do I want to keep my long-term savings on an exchange? Is there any way I could keep that on a hardware wallet while using your tool?
Yeah, that's a great question. So hardware support will certainly be coming, but the reality is, and I almost hate to say it, but the reality is most people are a lot better off custodying their assets on a good, solid, safe exchange like Binance than they would be trying to manage their own private keys. The same way most people are better off keeping their money in Chase, which is an American bank account, right, or Bank of America or whatever, as opposed to keeping money in a safe under their bed. The user experience has a long way to go on the private custody part of this industry. Ledger's doing a phenomenal job, We will be working with Ledger in some capacity to try to bring some tools to people who are self-custodying using a wallet, but it's very difficult to automate that because you need to sign those transactions with your private key each time. So while we are bringing portfolio management tools to the likes of people with a Ledger wallet as an example, to really get into some of these actively managed, if you want to be active in the market, you can't be transferring money back and forth between your Ledger wallet and your Binance account every time. Like every time you want to make a trade or buy something, it's a huge headache. So if you take the proper precautions with a proper exchange, I feel fairly confident, keeping money on exchange, keeping in mind counterparty risk. So I would say, as a simple rule of thumb, you should never have more than, call it 30% or 25% on a single exchange, right? So maybe, have 4 Binance accounts, 25% of your portfolio on each one, with a unique 2-factor code that's kept on a separate device from your phone. This is not my phone. This is an iPod that does not connect to the internet, with all my 2-factor codes, right? Secure your Binance account with a YubiKey, so that way you can only get in with physical 2-factor authentication, and be on your way. I mean, good luck. I mean, so if you take the proper precautions, custodying your money on an exchange like Binance, I feel fairly confident about for most people.
That's a great response. I agree to the point where right now, user experience is a huge issue with the hardware wallets. Like the average person can't figure out, the average person, I'd actually say, can barely figure out how to transfer crypto from one wallet to another. It's all somewhat doable on an exchange, but when it comes to the hardware wallets, it gets really uncomfortable. And I'm actually planning on working with a few companies myself, because pushing crypto security is something I'm quite passionate about. And from a philosophical perspective, it is nice, and it really changes things when people can truly own what is actually theirs. Like that ownership becomes theirs, and the ownership can only sensibly become theirs when the UI is there. Otherwise, you can't risk, it's like putting it under your bed. The cash shouldn't be under your bed. It should be the equivalent of a bank in your house, and you can open it like you would your fridge and use it that intuitively and easily.
I agree. Do you use any decentralized exchanges yourself?
I don't use any decentralized, Uniswap counts, but it's not my primary place for trading. I use derivatives exchanges because I like leverage as a tool to mitigate that counterparty risk as much as I can. So keep what I can on hardware wallets and then throw it on a leverage exchange when I want to start trading more actively.
Yeah, so some decentralized exchange support is something that we're working on currently. One of our primary investors in our business, equity investors, is Alameda Research. They own FTX. You're probably quite familiar with Sam and his team. And as a result of them putting out Serum, which is a decentralized exchange, we're currently building support for Serum. And so that will allow someone to custody their own money on their own wallet, connected to Stacked, and we can route orders through a decentralized exchange. So we are going to be, again, working towards this kind of non-custodial solution, but the UI still has to be there, man. It's still got to be super intuitive. It's something that Coinbase, Cash App, even, you look at like an Acorns or something like that, like intuitive investing, the way that we're used to in 2020. We got to bring that to crypto. We're trying to play a small part of that, and see how much of an impact we can really make.
I mean, that's pushing adoption, and I love that. So let's take a step back now, because you've built something really awesome, man. You've come a long way. How long have you been building Stack now?
Yes, I mean, the first napkin sketch was about 1.5 years ago. Kind of hit me not in any type of epiphany kind of way, because it's not, I don't think, the most original idea of all time. It really comes down to execution. I could go on a whole tangent about original ideas versus execution. Everyone's got a good idea.
I'd love to hear about that.
Well, I mean, as an entrepreneur, it might be a segue at some point, but like everyone's got the next great idea. Something that I always find funny when I speak to other entrepreneurs in particular is, "Hey, Birch, I want to show you my product. I want to have you check this out, but first, can you sign an NDA? You got to keep it a secret." I'm like, man, this NDA. First of all, you're not going to be able to enforce this NDA. Second of all, your idea, if your idea is super good, then someone else is already working on it. And it's just going to be a matter of who's executing the best. But, with Stacked, it was an idea on a napkin 18 months ago. And the idea was born, had nothing to do with automation. And for the most part was around indices. What's the most profitable way for any typical retail investor in the equities market forget about crypto for a second. What's the most profitable way for the average retail equities investor to invest over a 10-year period? Is it A, invest in a hedge fund, B, actively trade, or three, is it an index like the S&P 500?
Well, by far the S&P 500 or any sort of diversified index that has minimal fees.
Now, my thesis is that probably will hold true in crypto as well, maybe even more so because of the short, the short natured mindset that many investors in crypto have. They're more likely to burn themselves to the ground trying to trade or something. Whereas,
Birch, if I can interject there, question. I ran the test like a year and a half ago, but I tried to index like the top 10 and I tried the top 15 and the top 20, but very few things actually outperformed Bitcoin alone simply because of the super high turnover rate. Has that now changed? Do you think it's different now? Does your data show otherwise?
yeah, so it definitely depends, obviously, but within the Stack platform, we have two sides of our marketplace. We have baskets and we have bots. Bots, self-explanatory. Those are trading bots. You connect to a BitMEX account. You leverage trade long and short positions automatically. That's for some people. The majority of people have these basket options. Some of the baskets, and keep in mind, these aren't typically just ones that we're coming up with off the top of our head. We're not financial advisors. What we do is we take very well-known indices that people put together in crypto. Bitwise famously has the Bitwise 10 and 20. Grayscale has a public portfolio. Anthony Pompliano's Morgan Creek Digital Asset Fund, they partnered with Bitwise to put forth a portfolio of crypto constituents and their own index. And there's countless examples. The F5 crypto index, the Coinbase, formerly the Coinbase index. So these have been done by other institutions. Many of the times, those portfolios are 80-85% Bitcoin. So they get most of the success and drawdown of Bitcoin as a result, but they have a little bit of major alt exposure, which tends to prop them up a little bit. And for the most part, the baskets on our platform, I think almost every single basket on our platform currently has outperformed Bitcoin so far this year. Some of the baskets are far higher risk, but higher reward, like the DeFi basket, which is the top 10 DeFi coins on Binance, weighted by market cap. And that particular basket is up like 600 or 700% spot year to date. And so, it really depends. But what I would say is, anytime someone uses the argument, but Bitcoin has outperformed, or you could have just held Bitcoin. Yes, you could have also just held Bitcoin down from $20,000 to $3,000. Just holding Bitcoin can be an investment strategy. And if that is your investment strategy, move your crypto to a hardware wallet, put it underneath your bed, and be on your way.
To just make a point, I wasn't promoting just holding Bitcoin, more averaging into Bitcoin, just like you would have done the index itself.
Yeah. And so even still, if Bitcoin's the only investment asset, which I think there's viability in that being an investment strategy for a long time, that was my investment strategy. Now I want some exposure to the other exciting assets that are out there, specifically in the DeFi space, whether it be Compound or FTT token or Comp or whatever, or like Uniswap or whatever. But yeah, if your investment strategy is just buy an average, anytime Bitcoin goes down, average into it, whatever. Again, there's really great ways for you to do that. Stacked isn't going to be probably the platform that's going to be most enticing to you because you're just kind of hodling Bitcoin. And I think that's a perfectly viable investment strategy. I do believe, however, that the vast majority of these baskets will probably outperform Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin has 3 to 5x upside over the next 5 years. I think some of these other underlying assets have 30 to 50x upside, specifically in DeFi. So that's just my personal thesis. And so as a result, having a tool that makes it super easy to gain exposure to those assets without having to log into Binance and then buy some Bitcoin, buy some Ether, buy some Comp, buy some Uniswap, buy some Sushi, instead just be able to click, have a basket, and then just move some sliders around anytime I want to adjust. Just make the UI better for investors. That's really what we've aimed to solve for.
And as a business, at what size did you start and how did you grow that team?
Yeah, just getting into the entrepreneurial journey a little bit, I had some success investing in the crypto space, but prior to crypto, I spent 5 years working for one of the fastest growing tech startups here in the States and here in Chicago called Grubhub, which was just acquired by Just Eat, which is based out of London, for like $4 billion. As a result, yeah, at one point, Grubhub was publicly traded at about $15 billion market cap. So we went from $30 million when I started to $15 billion ultimately on the public market. So I had some success there. As a result, I met a lot of developers. I met a lot of like just personal confidants in business development. I met data analysts, right? I met good product guys and girls. And so when it came to like start this crypto journey and decided that I wanted to start building a product, it started by reaching out to that local network, basically friends or colleagues of mine, and saying, listen, this is what I'm good at. This is what you're good at. This is what you're good at. Let's kind of put our heads together. Met a lot of the right people. And so when we first started, we had a team of like 5 that were all just bought in, no one getting paid or anything like that. Just working on getting the first iteration done. And then we launched the beta product in January of 2020. And it's been a hell of a ride since, because once you launch the product, then the focus becomes generate revenue, gain profitability, potentially fundraise, which we did, which we can talk about, grow your team, so on and so forth. But for the first year, dude, it was 5 of us working out of my apartment in many cases. We had another small office for a while. And we were just doing all sorts of, I was consulting on the side. Like I was doing sales and product consulting on the side to pay myself. So, there's an element of having to kind of, put your face in the dirt for a little bit and just kind of work to get the stuff done.
You need that blind faith, almost that naivety to the risks as an entrepreneur. Similarly, I'm starting something right now and all my income's coming from trading. My actual business isn't earning anything right now. Everything's just going out and trying to level it up as much as you can. And you kind of need that mindset as an entrepreneur. Otherwise, if you're risk averse, you're never going to be able to scale up and reach those audacious goals.
Let me tell you, for any of your listeners, if you are looking to kind of break out and do your own thing, there's arguably no better niche than crypto. And I think a big thing that helped me was, when I quit my job, I was in a financial position where I was comfortable. Like, the last thing I want to do is stress about money. I'm grown, like I'm getting married soon. Like I got stuff to worry about. So, that there was that element to it. But if you're not in that position, crypto is the type of industry where you can get on Twitter, right? You can get on Instagram or Facebook, but definitely preferably Twitter. You can be a productive member of the society and contribute and support. You'll always see me applauding for the tons of entrepreneurs that are around us, and trying to co-support people. As a result, you build relationships. And as a result, you can definitely earn some pretty decent money in this industry by offering your time in exchange for payment, right? And so that's what I did for the first 8 months we were building Stacked. Is I said, listen, I have this experience with a successful startup. Like we've done this, that, and the other. I've got this basically resume. I think I can help you solve some of these key problems. In my case, it was helping people with their sales process and their funnel for their website, things like that. And I said, listen, I know you got a bunch of shit coins because you're a crypto company. I know you got a treasury full of a bunch of made up money that you printed. And, my fee is 30 grand and I'll take payment in coin. So the benefits of being in this industry is it's global. There's entrepreneurs everywhere. And a lot of them might not be cash rich, but they do have liquid assets that you can trade in exchange for your time. And I spent most of 2019 working, most of my income was from either investing. I'm more of a swing trader, if not almost like a quarterly investor, like a market cycle investor, or, payments I would get for doing consulting and things like that.
That's incredible. You brought up the numbers. So I'm going to ask, is that 30K a job?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. It's nothing like super egregious. It's like, listen, I'm going to be here. I'm going to give you 5 hour, 5 hours a day or 20 hours a week or whatever this project might be, or work with you over the next 9 months and accomplish these goals. So everything, at least the way I operated my consulting company was very KPI driven. Like, listen, these are what you want to get: a new landing page out. You want to get an email funnel created. You want to get retargeting campaigns live, and you want to get, some new user onboarding flow design. All right. I will spend the next 6 months and I'll help you get these things done. I'll lead the direction on these things. I'll give you a minimum of this much time per week, and it's going to be 30K. It's going to be 50K. It's going to be 10K, depending on the situation. And I did that a number of times, and not a single time, not one of those times did it involve the caveat of me having to go onto social media and like shill someone's bags or something like that, and like promote like that. I've never been like paid in that way to like promote tokens. So for me, it was about working with the startups underneath those crypto brands or behind the token, like working with the core startup. Because ultimately, if these crypto startups can't generate traction, they're dead in the water. It doesn't matter how pretty their token economics are, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's two parts to a product. It's how much it's worth and how much its perceived value is. So for our listeners, if someone wants to get to that point where they can offer companies in the crypto space that sort of service, they get on Twitter, what's the next step for them?
Reach out. Do not stop sending DMs until you get the response that you want, and that's how I got my job at Grubhub at 23 years old, and the jobs I had from 16 until then, and the things that I've done since then. I'm very close connected as an advisor to a company here in the crypto space that's recently been doing very well. They have an underlying token, they have a successful platform, they have big time investors. Before anyone knew who they were, except for the team, which was a solid team, I just sent a DM on Twitter. Hey man, I see that you're somewhat local. Let's talk. And that led to a relationship. That relationship later led to an opportunity for me, and that opportunity eventually paid off. So it's about reaching out. And my inbox is full on Twitter, like of a lot of crap. But there's every once in a while, once a week or so, hey man, I'm a graphic designer. Do you need any help? Do you know anyone who needs a graphic? Hey man, I'm a web developer. I'm a blockchain dev. Like, and in a lot of cases, I'll either respond and just say, hey, unfortunately not really, but thanks for reaching out, and I'll make a note, or I'll forward them on to someone who I know is hiring. So reach out, send a message, and go from there, man. But this is ripe with opportunity in this space right now.
Now, someone who's in your position has a lot more freedom over who they approach, but also your reputation is a lot bigger and there's a lot more to lose. So how do you vet a bad company that you shouldn't work with, who isn't doing good for the world, and a company that you should work with, who's going to be worth your time? And yeah.
Man, I mean, it's probably multifaceted. For me, I typically will look at what other super smart or successful people that I respect have also put their name behind this particular company at this stage. And if that doesn't exist, there's an element of intuition. There's an element of risk. There's an element of saying like, I shook this person's hand, so it's not as likely that they're going to do something crazy. Like for me, I just kind of have a hard and fast, like I'm not going to go into business with like an anon. And I totally respect, especially in this industry, people's desire to stay anonymous, 100%. I'm not going to start a business with you though. And I'm definitely not going to give you money. I'm not going to share. I'm not going to tell people about your product necessarily, in very rare circumstances, maybe. So a lot of the anons that your listeners know and love, a lot of the people on crypto Twitter who no one really knows who they are, I know you being in London, and I've been fortunate to meet many of them and shake their hands and have phone calls and do FaceTimes and go to conferences together. And so that just takes time. I mean, it just took me completely dedicating myself to this industry for 3 straight years, every single day. And eventually those networks, those relationships build, especially if you're not a jackass to work with.
That's a very interesting but understandable perspective. You value your time a lot, clearly, and working with someone who is anonymous has this huge time commitment that comes initially with working out whether or not you can trust them, meeting up with them, finding out who they are, and obvious risks that come with it as well. And in a space that is primarily anonymous, you're always clarifying your perspectives by seeing the other side, which I really like. It's, oh, I feel this way, but I totally get this side. And if you want to do that, you do you. And that sort of bipolar mindset, the ability to see the gray within the black and white, is just so essential to success. Have you cultivated that, or has that always been the case?
I'm a very pragmatic person. I come from no easy means. Nothing was handed to me throughout my life. I immigrated to this country at a young age with a single father who worked at a blue collar job. We had bouts of homelessness and other things. So I had my own things to have to worry about. And so I was taught some very simple rules at a young age as a result that I think have stuck with me. One, it's work very hard. At the end of the day, you can't control a lot, but you can control how hard you work. My dad worked a blue collar job. He stayed an hour late every single day when everyone else went home so he could clean his truck. Everyone else left their truck dirty. My dad doesn't do that sort of work anymore. That was 25 years ago. He's definitely made something of himself. A lot of the other people, maybe not. So it's about taking a certain level of pride in your work and what you do. So work hard. And then the other aspect is, you know, I have always just been a big believer in trying to that I've never been able to give money, right? Like historically, especially. Now I play investor a little bit, so maybe that's not so much the case. But for the majority of my life, money was never the option, right? If I wanted something, dad can't buy it, I can't buy it. That was money didn't solve problems. So instead, relationships tended to get me what I wanted, right? If I wanted to go on a vacation, my buddy's parents had to love me. I had to be their favorite friend because he could only invite one friend. He's got 10 friends. I'm the new guy. He can only invite one. I got to make sure he wants to go. I'm the best time, right? I got to make sure he wants to go with me. So I've always been a big fan of cultivating really valuable relationships and trying to give as a part of doing that because kind of it's always a little bit selfish, but in the back of your mind, you're always thinking like, when am I going to maybe need a similar favor, right? So XYZ crypto influencer who doesn't matter, I won't name, but y'all know who he is, reaches out to me a week ago with a favor. Hey, can you do this thing for me? Can you write this thing for me? And like, without question, sure, not a problem at all. No questions. Because, there's gonna come a time where I'm gonna need to slide into his DMs. Be like, hey, remember that thing I did? I'm gonna need you to throw me this retweet. I'm gonna need you to so once you start seeing people retweet a bunch of stacked stuff, those are all people I've done favors for. But yeah, it's
That's
just about
awesome.
building that relationship.
So how do you build that relationship? If that's been the way you've gotten from point A to point B most of your life, what are the top tips you give people to cultivate those sorts of relationships, create that sort of energy?
I mean, I built a career in sales. The reason I got a job at Grubhub, which went on to be a successful startup at a very young age, was because from 16 to 23, I built a career being a very productive salesperson, being someone who was able to move a lot of product in a very efficient way at a very young age, because I dedicated my life to it. And again, it stemmed from my ability to communicate. I had no other. I went to three high schools. I moved around a lot. Like I was always the new kid. So if there was anything I had to be good at, it was communicating and getting people to trust me and like me and bring them into their tribe quickly, because otherwise I was just gonna be a loner my whole life. And so, it's for me, it's just really an element of, you know, giving, like I said before, like trying to give something like, what can I do for you? Like, how can I help you? People are always super, super responsive. No big name like influencer or somebody that you want to work with out there in the world is going to blow you off, especially if they're worth anything. If you slide into their DMs, offering to help with something, that's super valuable. And that instantly builds a connection. There's too many people asking for things first. What can I get from you? Hey, if you give me $100, I'll trade it and then I'll share the profit with you. Hey, if you invest in this thing, hey, if you tweet this, try to focus on when it comes to building these relationships. Like, again, my background's like in sales. It was always about like finding that common ground and seeing like, how can I offer value to this person? Because then I can kind of try to extract value after the fact. And sales was no different.
But what's the tipping point? Because surely there's a tipping point where you're no longer adding value and building a relationship and you're just getting taken advantage of.
You got to learn how to say no. That's something I struggle with. Even today, I struggle with. Not perfect, but you do have to learn to say no. You have to learn to be able to say, that's not for me, or it's not something I have time to do right now. You don't want to be taken advantage of, but at the same time, like I think it's better to overextend while you can. So, I'm fortunate to be like moderately young, not in my 20s anymore, but fairly good on like time freedom and stuff like that. So I have the ability to leverage myself. I feel like if there's ever a time I'm going to overdo it, it should be now, not when I have kids and a mortgage and like a wife and all this other stuff years down the road. So I think it depends on also where you're at. The younger you are, for better or worse, the more you can kind of overextend yourself. You have to be a little bit tighter with your time as you get more responsibilities, and you have to try to pick and choose. But it has to be like genuine too, dude. You can't just like start DMing everybody you know and be like, "Hey, I write code, I write code, I write code, I write code, I'll write you code." There has to be some level of like time that you put into any relationship, and if that means that you like every single tweet from the crypto dog and comment on every single thing he says until he notices you, then so be it. If that's important to you, and to some people, that's important to them. Others don't give a shit. So you just gotta put the time in. You gotta put it in.
To expand on putting the time in, I think that's one of the reasons a lot of my guests enjoy the podcasts a lot and comment on the fact that it's more personalized than a lot of other podcasts. And that's because I really research everyone that comes on. I look into what they're doing, what they're good at, what topics they'll be able to deliver a lot of value on. And the same can be put into a DM. So if you're going to send someone a DM, don't say, "Hey, I write code." Say, "Hey, I notice you're doing this amazing project. It's awesome. I write code. I might be able to help out." Just that subtle difference. That's the world right there.
I agree. There's actually a pretty common sales technique that you can use if you're doing cold outreach. So if you're a business, if you're a B2B salesperson, if you own a business, if you're just looking to network on LinkedIn or even on Twitter or whatever, and it really comes down to like tying in something that person said. The beauty of social media is those people that you're DMing, they've all said stuff publicly. Like they've all made a comment. They've all put a stance on something. They all have an opinion. So if you go into someone's DM and you're like, "Hey, I saw your article the other day, or I saw your tweet the other day about this, and man, I totally agree. It's crazy what they're doing out there. Oh, by the way, just so you know, I happen to like write code. I'm pretty good. And if you ever that personalization, hey, I saw your previous thing, or hey, I totally agree with this thing that you said. That will really help tie it together. So again, for anyone out there looking to slide into DMs, take this alpha and give it a try.
And that's not even, when you say sales tip or a trick, it's sales sounds malicious. People don't like the word, but that the reason that works is because it shows you take the time. It shows you take that extra effort. That's what I'm valuing, not like I've been manipulated or tricked in some way.
No, yeah, absolutely. I think that's a problem. That's a problem with the youngin in today's society. I hate the word sales for some reason. Like it's a lot of bad actors who have tainted the name. I think crypto has a tainted name as well. That's why we should just start calling it DeFi, and then we can have another bull market as soon as we rebrand from crypto. But
is that a serious fault? DeFi instead of crypto?
Dude, crypto is tainted. In my opinion, to all my idiot friends who want to buy Ripple at $3, like the guys who don't pay. Those are the people I'm trying to get to buy my bags. You guys too, right? All the listeners or whatever. Ultimately, to have another bull market, we need our idiot friends to come in and pump all of our coins to $3 again. Doesn't seem like that's close to happening. Like Bitcoin's 14K almost, 13,536. We're getting there. So a lot of it is like this negative. There's like this negative connotation for like cryptocurrency. Like when I'm talking to someone like, "Oh, you do crypto? You do crypto? You're a weirdo." So for me, it's no. I'm a digital. I have a fintech startup for digital asset management. We help people manage digital. That's what I say to people. I don't say crypto because then they kick me out. Like, get out of here, you crazy.
I do the same thing with day trader. Like, I don't say I day trade. It's like, I do investment stuff, finance, bit of this, bit of that. And you can't say the word day trading. Oh, you're a degenerate gambler.
Forex Instagram influencer, Instagram Forex influencers ruined day trading for day traders for sure. It's no longer cool.
And yeah, maybe scams and pumps and dumps and Ponzi's have tainted crypto a little. Though DeFi isn't that far off. Have you seen the number of rug pulls we've had this year? It's been disgusting.
But it hasn't happened to like retail. It's like the people,
just their own people.
Yeah, the people moving money around DeFi right now is just like our own little bubble of degenerate crypto crazy people. It's not like my Uber drivers are not asking about Uniswap. We're just not there. It's just not a thing. You need to connect an Ethereum wall. I can barely figure it out. I'm building products in this industry. I do this for a living. Like, what the hell is this?
So what's the next step for crypto? You said it needs to change its name to DeFi, but what's crypto's role then? If crypto's tainted, how are we going to bring it to the mainstream and have it, be the financial revolution we all want to see?
It's very simple. It's less crypto becoming mainstream and more mainstream catching up to crypto. So that is to say, tokenizing stocks. It is to say major technology companies like IBM starting to actually utilize blockchain technology in their tech stack, not because it's good for their shareholder IPO, their prices, right? Their publicly traded prices, and to be like Revel, but to actually because it's actually better. It's a better technology that they have figured out how to be faster and safer and more transparent and fungible and all these other good things. And so, the reality is cryptographically secured assets of almost any type. NFTs are a good example of backing physical assets. You have like lending tokens, you have interest bearing smart contracts, you have like these kind of more far-fetched ideas, you have actual currencies, of course, within the crypto. Most of them are not currencies, but those that are, like Bitcoin, have their place as well. And we need to get like more of the real world over into this space. We need more traditional startups fundraising in tokenized ways, right? Like fundraising is one of the best use cases I've seen for crypto since I started investing in this space. And it's unique because it gives real people an opportunity to be angel investors, for lack of a better term. I was very fortunate to get these things called stock options from Grubhub, right? Which I didn't know what they were at 23 years old when they hired me. And then when they went public, I quickly learned what they were and that they had value. Well, this is a Silicon Valley backed, Andreessen Horowitz backed, like major tech startup. No one's getting those options unless you work for the company or you're a wealthy accredited investor with lots of connections. So no one else had the opportunity to get Grubhub at $2 like I did, or 50 cents. In crypto, everyone has the opportunity by way of tokenization and these governance tokens and private sales that are done correctly and public sales are done correctly, to invest in startups that they believe in. And I think that's a beautiful thing. There's regulation needs to catch up. You need to find ways to make things safer. There will always, yeah.
To interrupt you, that once regulation does catch up, don't we go exactly where the tech stocks are now? We create those walls, those inabilities for the normal person to invest. I mean, that's the reason the good comes with the bad in that instance.
It can do, but the difference is this is global. So we've never seen the likes of this anywhere. Like the SEC can't solely regulate crypto. They can just regulate crypto for US companies and US people. There's, last I checked, I think we had users on Stack from like 76 countries. Now, I was not a great student, and geography was especially not my strong suit. I cannot name 76 countries. So it's a massively distributed and global industry. And when I say regulation needs to catch up, it's more so about finding ways to protect investors. But by default, even with regulation, the barrier to entry for crypto will be so much lower than any other asset class because of how easily anyone can access it. And so being regulated doesn't mean it's a mirror of the equities market today. That would be trash. Like the accredited investor requirements and different reporting requirements, it's all nonsense. Not all of it, but a lot of it's crap. So by default, the barrier to entry is lower. They're going to have to come down to our level. The reality is they cannot stop digital asset adoption. They cannot. So there's going to have to be some happy medium, and there's got to be a better way to protect novice investors in particular. And I think we're still probably a ways off from that, but I'm very optimistic that that's a part of our future. And I'm very optimistic that there's going to be support as opposed to resistance from regulatory bodies that allow regular folks to get access to crypto the same way Robinhood, as an example, or Acorns has brought fractional equities investing, and even Robinhood bringing options to 18-year-old college students. If Robinhood can offer options to children, then we can offer, Ripple coin or OMG as an investable asset to grown adults.
Well, I'm really enjoying how you have very profound, thought out answers to the counter arguments to your points as well. So these aren't just ideas you've slowly or recently put together. These sound like ones that have been marinating over your 3 years, deep dived in this space.
I've done a lot of podcasts. I've spoken in a lot of places, and I've spent my entire life thinking about this industry and why I want to put my name on it. Um, and there's a lot of reasons, but the primary reason is because I'm just a kid from the neighborhood. I didn't come from anything special. And through a little bit of hard work, some risk taking, and some luck, I was able to find myself in a position where I was able to have my life changed in a positive way by getting access to the stock market by way of Grubhub and getting access to the crypto market by way of the people I met at Grubhub in this case, because most of the people who introduced me to crypto work there. So, I want to further help more kids from the neighborhood become investors, because you will never get rich just trading hours for money. Even as a doctor or a lawyer, and you're getting $400 for every hour versus 10 for some people, even then you will not get rich. You will only
take it a
be
step
able to.
above that.
Yeah.
Sorry, take it a step above that. Look at celebrities, the best singers that make millions and millions. They don't get rich. 10 years later, they're filing for bankruptcy for exactly what you're saying right now.
Because they buy, instead of buying a $200,000 house, they buy a $2 million house. It's all relative, right? So like, if you don't have, the point is, no one can work for it. No celebrity stays famous forever, with very rare exceptions. Sure, there are people who are just exceptionally gifted and fortunate as actors, as athletes, as singers, and in spite of themselves, Floyd Mayweather, in spite of themselves, they will be set for life. But let's be honest, that is not a plan. That is not something that we can expect to try to execute on. So whether you are making minimum wage or working in the gig economy as an Uber driver or something to that effect, assuming you don't like doing it, or you're a lawyer or a doctor or whatever, making $400 or $500 an hour, consulting, doing $200, $300 an hour, you will never get rich until you stop trading hours for dollars, because there's only 24 hours in a day, and you have to sleep and you have to do other things. So until money is working for you, no matter what, right, all the time, you won't be able to build wealth. And so one part of that is investing. And one part of investing is investing in digital assets. I'm not one of those crazy people telling you to liquidate your 401k and invest in Bitcoin. That's asinine. But I do believe that based on your risk horizon, your time horizon, your risk parameters, that you should have between 1 and 10% of your investable assets in digital currency. Plain and simple. If you're a higher risk person, throw 10. If you're 60 and about to retire, throw 1. Also buy real estate. Also invest in physical assets, art or whatever, Pokemon cards if you want. Also take time to be a normal person. Invest in your health, mentally, physically, etc. But one part is investing, and one part of investing is investing in crypto, in my opinion. And I'm just trying to make that tiny sliver just a little bit better for the average person.
I'm going to follow up with a two-part question to that. Number one, what are your other investments? You mentioned real estate, you mentioned the Pokemon cards, but you said earlier those aren't your real investments, and you gave that 1 to 10%. So I'd love to know what that other 90% is. And then the second part to this question is, you said that's one part of investing. Did you mean there's a whole other part as well?
Well, yeah. So I think investing is one part of building wealth. I think investing in crypto is one part of investing. I think investing in stocks is another part. I think investing in real estate is another, investing in physical assets. So that's what I mean by that. And for me, I'm not as diversified as I should be, because I'm an entrepreneur. And so I'm a business owner who put a lot of money and energy and time into my own business. And so you probably shouldn't follow my portfolio unless you have an extremely high appetite for risk and have some pretty good contingency plans and some heavy bags as well. So for me, I am invested in a couple of startups on the equity side. Like I have small equity in a number of startups, a couple of which are not crypto startups. They're just local startups. And then I have stock, right? So I'm invested into the stock market. I have a 401k that's contributed to. And then I'm very overexposed to crypto. And that's I don't have real estate right now. I'm very much looking forward to potential buying opportunities in real estate here coming very soon. Um, and yeah, I got a collection. Between all my memorabilia, it's worth it's worth a little bit, a couple Bitcoin maybe. But ultimately, I'm not the guy to model the most perfect diversified portfolio because I'm an entrepreneur, and as a result, I have to. I personally operate a little bit differently. But for those of you who are out there who are like, listen, I like my day job. I don't want to start a company. That sounds terrible. It is. Run away. It's terrible.
It's not
Okay.
what people think it is.
Listen, it's insane. It's crazy. This is crazy. Do you see my office? This is not normal. This is not. This is something that is just. It's just not for everybody because the level of stress directly correlates with the level of purple in the background right now. It's very high. But it's just something that I can't do anything else. Like I have to create and like work on product. There's a lot of ways to invest.
there's this love for the pain, isn't there? This love for the uncertainty, for the words used a lot but for the actual hustle. You don't become an entrepreneur to get great ROI on your time. You really don't, because
No.
it's especially hiring people. Man, people think if you hire someone, oh, easy, I've got someone to do the work for me. No, you've got someone who's going to do work, and you have to work twice as hard as them to keep them motivated and keep them doing work for you.
Dude, 100%. Listen, I don't want to turn anyone off from following their dream. And if that dream is to be a pro basketball player, a singer, an artist, or an entrepreneur, or a lawyer, or a garbage driver, or whatever, right? I think it's great. But let me just tell you, if you want my advice, that it's more likely that you're not cut out to be a full-time entrepreneur. You probably wouldn't enjoy it. Just like it's more likely you're not cut out to be a full-time trader, and it's more likely you're not cut out to be a full-time basketball player. The reality is, it's a fairly niche world, right? It's not one of these like things that just everyone can do. There's different elements that are involved, and certainly some people get lucky, and some people get very unlucky. Some very competent entrepreneurs get very unlucky. But it's not for everyone.
Yeah, but to comment on what you said about following your dreams is great, but you also have to be realistic with your strengths, because anyone can do anything. You have limitless potential, but there's a huge genetic element to what you're built for. I mean, look at how different our bodies are, like everyone's bodies and their genetic potential as to whether or not they'll become an athlete. And then think of how many more variables there are in the brain, how many neural connections there are, how differently wired different people's brains are. So to a certain degree, you do have to go towards your strengths. I'm sure you like we talked about earlier, you love this. Like to a degree, you must love the working 80-hour weeks, the giving your all in this high risk environment. And to a certain degree, that's wired in your brain.
Well, and that's exactly right, because I also value the time freedom more than I value the money. I made a lot more money working for Grubhub. They were a well-funded, very profitable technology startup going on to be worth billions of dollars. They paid me very well. Now, there was an element of it where I said, short term, I'll make less money. Long term, I'll sell the company and I'll have Lambos. So there is that element. It's not like I'm just giving up money for the rest of my life. Like the plan is to make money from it, and we're fortunate as a company to be in a position where I can pay myself. But listen, I made a lot more money working for someone else. And most of you out there will make a lot more money working. I'm sure you're a perfect example of someone who's more than qualified to go make really good money working for someone else. For me, and it sounds like it's probably true for you, I value the time freedom so much more than that. The ability to come in on a Sunday, so that way I can leave at 2 on a Tuesday and play golf, or so that way I can, stay up on a Saturday for a Hong Kong call and, come in late on a Thursday because, I stayed up late. Like whatever the case may be, I value having the time freedom. So for me, it's worth all the grind and everything else. And it just so happens that the way I was raised, the environment that I was raised in, which was very much you don't get handouts, nothing is given, everything is earned. And even after you earn it, you still probably won't get it. Even if you deserve it, I'm still not going to give it to you. Even if you won, you're still not going to get credit. That's the environment I came from. As a result, and then building a career in sales, as a result, naturally, I developed unbelievably thick skin. So I have this, I think, just really good innate ability to be a chameleon, to fail with a smile on my face, kind of to be rejected without, hesitation, to it's not something that phases me. And I think that is what helps me be a successful entrepreneur. There's a lot of weaknesses that I have, certainly. When I look at my strengths, having super thick skin is probably the biggest one.
Especially for social media. Now, I don't know if the listeners are sick of hearing it at this point, but every single guest, without exception, including one I had on today, continually enforce you need that win or learn mindset. If you can't handle like relentless back-to-back losses, falling on your feet, obstacles every step of the way, this is not the way to go, because it's your responsibility. Because I don't value time freedom because I feel I have less time. Although I value the time choice and responsibility. So the fact that I get to choose what I want to do.
Yeah, that's the freedom, and it is the decision to spend your time how you want.
Right.
That's the freedom. I'm very busy. I work 80 hours a week for less money than I used to make working 40 hours a week. Okay, so you got to be a little crazy to work 80 hours for less money than you made working 40 hours. But the freedom to, I choose to do that, right? I could also choose not to come to work for a week and probably could get away with it, though. You know, things would fall quite behind and my team would beat me up.
And you'd lose that execution you were talking about earlier. If you're not working, if you take that week off, then your competition with that same idea is going to get ahead.
And I do this because I love what I do. Like I love thinking about this problem every day. Eventually I'll get bored of it. And hopefully again, I'll have my moment in the sun. I'll get my payoff after putting my time in, and then I'll go do something else that I'll also be like obsessed with, and that'll be like my main thing. I don't know what it'll be. I'm not worried about that right now. I'm focused on what the task at hand is, but I think being very flexible, and again, yeah, you have to be able to fail. And listen, don't feel bad if you're sitting to yourself right now and you're like, honestly, I don't think I could. Honestly, like if someone's telling me I suck every single day, I can't. I don't think I can do that. Or honestly, like I don't think I could make less money than I make now. Like I make X. If I was making half of that, I don't think. Then great, fantastic, because the world and all the great companies within it are built upon all of these people that we need to trade their time for money. Great people. My father's one of those people, right? Like great people who without nothing else mattered. Like none of the execution. I didn't build the Stack platform, right? 20 other people built the Stack platform. And without those people, it'd be completely impossible. So, I think so many people just should embrace the fact that maybe they are a number 2, maybe they are a number 5 or a number 10 in a company. I was number 130 or something that Grubhub had ever hired. Now they've over 20,000 at some point or whatever. But, I was an entrepreneur when I took the job at Grubhub, but that didn't mean I couldn't work a job. I'm an entrepreneur. I can't have a job. No, what I did was I said, I'm an entrepreneur. I know I want to run a business. In fact, when I started working at Grubhub, I had a side hustle. I have all kinds of crazy stories from stupid ideas that I've had. But at the time I said to myself, what's going to be my best opportunity to have my own startup? Being 23 and quitting my job and just shoot and see what happens, or go work for a startup that just closed a $30 million fundraising round, get to know the founder pretty well, make friends with some of the engineers who are writing code, learn how to do some writing code myself. What's going to be better for my long-term growth? And for me, it was an absolute no-brainer. Before I figure it out, let me go watch someone else build a $1 billion startup. So I got to sit right there and watch someone else build a $1 billion startup. And I played my role and I contributed. That was really valuable for me.
It's also not black and white. It's not like you're either an entrepreneur or you're not an entrepreneur. Like, don't put some arbitrary definition on, oh, I want to work for myself. What does working for yourself mean? I'm sure there are 100 jobs, for both of us included, where we'd actually feel right at home in that job. It'd be perfect. We'd be able to replicate the same environment. So some people may have great jobs where they're actually being entrepreneurs. They're working in an early stage startup. They're on that C-suite team. They're trying to do huge value add, pushing it in the right directions. And that is no different, besides the label, to actually being an entrepreneur.
I consider many of those people entrepreneurs in their own right. I consider the people on my core team that sit in this office with me every day entrepreneurs in their own right, because they completely own that part of the business. They completely own that process. And they've taken a lot of the same risks. They're working for a small startup. We could shit the bed tomorrow. You could lose your job tomorrow. So they know those risks. They also know what the upside is. And so I totally agree with you.
Yeah, I love that. So one thing I've been asking a lot recently, because it's something I've been struggling with, and I know a lot of people in the crypto space struggle with as well. It's a 24-hour space, 24/7 space. You can work weekends. Sleeping becomes expensive, especially when Bitcoin is going parabolic. It's a bull market. The DeFi space has been going crazy. How do you get that balance in? When do you decide enough is enough, time to attend to life, my loved ones? I know you're engaged recently. How do you put that all together?
Yeah, it's a weakness of mine. Another one. We've been speaking of a few of my weaknesses today, so it's been therapeutic. I'm terrible at it. I don't get enough sleep. I don't spend enough time with my fiance. The pandemic
Why
has
does
helped.
everyone give me this answer?
You know, yeah, it's the because it's the truth. I mean, I guess you're talking to no bullshit kind of people. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you like, oh yeah, there's a lot of opportunity I have, but everyone in my circle of people who like deserve my time, and I think I do an okay job. Certainly, I'm definitely not neglectful, but they also kind of know what comes to the territory. My fiance in particular, she's like, listen, my man's trying to get, he's trying to get that exit because we're gonna be chilling. So like a part of it is like, she's her own career woman too. She's got her own thing going on. So a lot of it is just having support from those other people. Yeah, I'm not a great person to talk about work-life balance because I don't have a great work-life balance, but it is something I'm working on. One of the things I think that will help for me personally, and it did help when I went through some medical concerns about a year ago when I was just in this crazy place mentally, was like deleting social from my phone and using it only on my computer, which kept me off my phone when I wasn't working, and keep me off my phone when I wasn't working, made me more attentive in the rest of my life, and helped me fall asleep earlier at night because I wasn't just mindlessly surfing YouTube at 11 o'clock. I was like forcing myself to not be on my phone. And then what else is there to do but go to bed kind of thing. So that helped me. And I'll probably go back to, I'm one of those guys who like, I'll notice that there's maybe a little problem. I'll get pretty obsessive about fixing it. I put on 10 pounds. You'll see me in the gym, for 4 hours a day, every single day. Yeah, tunnel vision, just crazy. And then I'll get back in shape again. And then I'm done. No more gym until I get fat again. And then I'll do it again. Like, and I'm the same way with like golf. I'm the same way with crypto. I'm the same way with almost everything I do is I'll just be completely obsessive about it. And that's not super healthy. I understand. But until I either master it and I'm bored of it, or, until it beats me to death and I quit.
That's part of that brain wiring which keeps you going in this space. I got my first good answer today, actually, which I just remembered. And it was after he gave I was speaking to Ruben Med. Are you familiar with him?
Oh,
He's the
no.
CEO, co-founder of Engrave. They're really awesome. They're trying to revolutionize hardware security. It's really cool. And he's an extremely clever guy, like to a level I've never seen before. He's learned like 6 languages, multiple postgraduate degrees, launched business after business. And he's awesome.
Sounds like a rock star.
Yeah, I mean, everyone in the crypto spaces, I get to talk to rock stars every day, man. I got you here with about multiple Bitcoins of Pokemon cards just casually behind you, talking about this incredible business you've started. And well, anyway, the answer he gave was that it's not balanced, but if you're working towards a bigger cause, if you're working to help more than yourself, then it's okay. That sacrifice becomes a little justified. Yeah. And I never thought about it that way. And it's kind of like, oh, okay, I can work with this. This can justify this.
That was kind of what I was getting at, just not so eloquent. Is like, I don't have a great work-life balance, but I also don't beat myself up about that. I'm in this very fortunate position. Listen, I live in the downtown of a big city. I walk 10 minutes to my office where I'm hanging out mostly with my friends, working on something I love. And then I walk home and I hang out, with my fiance, and we have no kids, and we order pizza, and like we have a chill life. Now in the future, probably in the not too distant future, that'll likely start to change when there's more responsibility introduced into my life. So for now, like I've just kind of committed to the fact that this is that one time in my life I'm going to look back when I'm in my older years. I'm like, it's probably the peak. This podcast might be the peak. Today might be the peak. Right now, this might be it. So I'm trying to live in that moment, and I'm trying to not beat myself up too much. Just trying to keep my head down and go as far as I can until the wheels come off or something good happens.
Oh, it sounds like you're enjoying it. Whatever it is, you're loving it. I can feel your energy. I can feel your passion, and I love that. You mentioned pizza, so I'm going to ask, does diet, hydration, sleep, do you pay a lot of attention to these sorts of things to help optimize your work? Or
Yeah. Man, I used to be 200 and almost 30 pounds. So I'm 5'10". So you do the math. I'm
Wow.
165 pounds right now. So there was a time in my life when I was quite a bit younger, early 20s, where I really let the wheels fall off. I had started what was one of my first companies back then, and so during the day I was working on that, and because I was in sales, I was working an overnight shift, so I was like selling to other parts of the world. It was like some BS telemarketer shit, but so I didn't sleep and I got really unhealthy and I gained a lot of weight. And as a result, I had to educate myself. I'd never been educated before that on like health or anything. And I got very obsessive and I got on a very unhealthy, crazy, strict diet and ran like 5 miles a day. And I literally lost like 65 pounds in 3 months. I ended up in the hospital as a result. I had what's called a transient ischemic attack, which is like a mini stroke. So that's how hard I went so hard in the gym. I gave myself a stroke at 22 years old. But but I lost the weight, so that was a win. But as a result, I had to learn a lot of things the hard way. And so in the years since, certainly I've
Were you
always
just
been very
starving
conscious.
yourself? Sorry, what made you have a heart attack?
Well, I was eating. Yeah, it was like a mini stroke. I was eating like 1,200 calories a day, and it didn't really matter what it was. I was just hardcore calorie counting, and then on top of eating like 1,200 calories a day, which you can do, and I'm not like a huge dude, so like 1,200 calories, like you can definitely get by on. But I was also like, I was taking like hydroxycut at the time, which was like it's a
Oh
popular weight loss
no.
pill. But this was like the
Hmm.
earlier days of hydroxycut when they still had all kinds of like weird shit. Like now it's a little bit safer. I think it's like a decade later, but this is like hydroxycut's brand new. So I was like popping those like candy, and then I was on the elliptical for 3 hours a day. I did not stop. I went in the morning, I went at night. I didn't stop. Like I was just because I saw a picture of myself. I was like, oh my god. I was like, oh my god. I weigh as much as an NFL linebacker. What I'm talking like I was. You know what I mean? It was not.
Yeah,
And
210 at your height. Whoa.
I'm not I'm not cute enough to pull off that. So I had to get to work, right? I couldn't pull it off. I'm not funny enough either. So like, you know, I had nothing going for me. I had to get back down to a proper height weight proportion. And so, but as a result, I learned a lot. And so, yeah, I definitely carry that with me. And I went through a phase where I actually got really into like lifting, like bodybuilding. Got pretty good shape. Of course, that faded. You know, all right, I did that. Now I can see my abs again. Like now I quit. But I'm very conscious, certainly, and it's important. And you know, again, my fiance. You know, she's much in the same boat. So I think surrounding yourself with people who are also healthy, you know, I mean, she likes to work out almost every day. She eats well, like all that other stuff, you know, and if you're not in a relationship, your friends, your business partners, like try to surround yourself with people who you look up to, who you aspire to be, you know, if you see someone who's just like absolutely yoked and you're like, yo, I want to be like that dude, hang out with that dude. Be like, yo, you're absolutely yoked. I want to go to the gym with you. Chances are you're going to get yoked too if you go to the gym every day with a guy who's absolutely yoked, right? You're going to be successful if you hang out every day with someone who's successful. Like these are simple philosophies that allow regular folks like me who aren't particularly special or gifted in any particular way, you know, find success. You know, you can just learn from other people, be humble about the approach.
I mean, you've got this incredible energy about you, this way of telling stories and communicating, which all our listeners are going to be able to experience. Yet you're talking about not having the ability to pull off that weight, talking about being a regular guy when you've accomplished so much, when you lost enough weight quickly enough to give yourself a heart attack. I'm sure the hydroxy, whatever, helped as well. But man, that humility is awesome, and it's what makes you so personable. Birch,
Thanks.
Oh, no worries, no worries. It's genuine. All our listeners will be able to see it as well. And talking about surrounding yourself with incredible people, that's why I love this podcast. I get to spend like an hour talking to awesome, passionate people about all the cool stuff they're doing, asking whatever questions I want.
Yeah, it's sweet, man, and I'm very happy for you that you've gotten this off the ground. And you know, there's no shortage of podcasts or YouTube channels or Twitter people or whatever, and you can't boil the ocean. So like one of the questions I'll get sometimes is like, aren't you worried about XYZ competitor, or don't you think there's already enough podcasts? The answer is like no, because like I think the best way I can simplify it for myself is, again, I worked in sales for a long time, and a lot of my job was calling leads, dialing down the list, smiling and dialing, baby. You know how many times those leads were called before I made the call? And I knew it too. My manager would say, listen, this guy's been called 10 times. He told everybody no, but he hasn't told you no. He hasn't told you no. So as far as you're concerned, it's a fresh lead. And so I have that mindset when it comes to like business and like when I look at podcasts, is there enough podcasts? Yeah. Most of them are going to fail because most of them are not people who are particularly interesting, or they're not going to put in the time, or they're not going to put out enough content, or they're not going to be relatable or whatever. But just because there's 10 other podcasts, you don't have a podcast. And so go for it. And so I'm very glad to see that you've done that. And I wish you nothing but success with it. I'm happy to support it in any way that I can, because I just love to see people continue to, try to better themselves by doing it. So big props to you.
Thank you very much for the kind words, and hopefully it does go well. You know what? Even if it doesn't blow up and become the biggest podcast in the world, I would pay. I would be paying to be able to talk to people like I am now, to talk to these CEOs of incredible companies. So, man, heck, if it doesn't blow up, if it's just me who listens to it, it's a win, So the fact that people are tuning in and downloading and listening to the episodes, that's just bonus, icing on the cake. Birch, thank you so much for your time. This has been an incredible episode. I've loved talking to you about all these cool stuff. Is there anything you'd like to leave our listeners with before we end this episode?
Well, I wouldn't be a salesperson if I didn't remind everyone to go to TriStack.com to check out the platform for sure. Again, that's TriStack.com. No, other than that, just, I appreciate you having me on. I encourage anyone who's listening to, I don't want to sound like too cliche, but don't be too worried about boiling the ocean, right? Like if you have these thoughts or ideas, I imagine people listening to your podcast either have entrepreneurial tendencies or want to become day traders, or which is a very entrepreneurial thing to do, by the way. It requires very similar types of risk management. If these are goals that you have and you're sitting on your hands right now, I just implore you to stop sitting on your hands. Just go for it and fail, fail with grace. Just kind of understand going into it that failure is a massively necessary part of success. And if I'm more successful than you, and I may not be, there's a lot of people listening who I may not be more successful, but if you're listening to my voice right now and you're sitting here thinking, man, this Birch guy's kind of got, that's only because I failed more. That's it. It's only because I've just failed a few more times than you, and you'll catch up, and then you'll be right there. And I'm looking at Elon Musk, and I'm looking at these other guys way, way, way up in the clouds, just thinking about all the massive failures that they've had and close calls, and being inspired by that and trying to push up. So just keep pushing up. That's all I can say.
That's a fantastic outro. Guys, make sure you follow Birch on Twitter. The links will be in the description below to not only that, but also his Stacked platform, which looks pretty awesome. I've been on it. The UI is amazing. I haven't had the pleasure of using it yet, but I'll make sure to check it out after this podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Market Meditations podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like us to continue bringing you fascinating people from across the world, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever else you like to listen to these podcasts, and share the episode with a friend. If you have feedback or an idea for a potential guest, reach out to me on Twitter @KarushAK, and do not forget we write a newsletter covering all important topics in crypto and traditional markets. We send it out 3 times a week. The Market Meditations newsletter. You also get early access to these episodes, and you get transcripts and extra notes as well, so make sure to subscribe there as well.